There is a version of America you were never shown on a map. Not the 50 states, not the highways, not the borders drawn in textbooks. This version is drawn in deeds, corporate filings, and spreadsheets sitting on desks in New York, Toronto, and Riyadh. And in this version, some of America's most valuable land is controlled by people most of us will never meet. Here's the number that should stop you mid-scroll. A relatively small group of families, corporations, and investment firms controls millions of acres of private land across the United States. Some of these owners control enough farmland, timberland, and real estate to rival the size of entire states. You'd think land ownership in America would be simple. Buy a house, own your little piece of the dream. Buy a farm, work the land, pass it to your children. But over the last few decades, land has increasingly become something else, an investment asset.
Let's rewind. For much of the 20th century, land ownership was largely local. Farmers owned farms. Families owned homes. Small landlords owned a few rental properties. It was boring, fragmented, and human scale. Then, institutional investors started looking at real estate differently. Land doesn't disappear when a company goes bankrupt. A building can deteriorate, but the land underneath it can remain valuable for decades. And unlike a stock, you can use real estate to generate rental income while potentially benefiting from long-term appreciation. That changed the question. What if you didn't just build businesses on land? What if the land itself became the business? That idea helped create an enormous real estate investment industry.
Today, companies such as Invitation Homes and American Homes for Rent have built large portfolios of single-family rental properties across the United States. Instead of one family owning one house, a large company can own thousands of properties spread across multiple markets. Picture a suburban neighborhood with white fences, driveways, and basketball hoops. The house next door might belong to a family, but the house across the street could belong to a corporation whose headquarters are hundreds of miles away. And here's where the economics get interesting. These companies don't simply collect rent and put the money in a bank account. Their business depends on several sources of value: rental income, property appreciation, financing, operating efficiency, and scale. If you own one rental house, you have one roof to repair, one tenant to manage, and one mortgage to negotiate. If you own 50,000 houses, the economics change. You can centralize management, negotiate services across thousands of properties, spread technology and administrative costs across a huge portfolio, and access financing that may be difficult for an individual investor to obtain.
Scale doesn't guarantee higher returns, but it can fundamentally change the economics of owning property. And housing is only one part of the story. Farmland may be even more interesting. Bill Gates has become one of the largest private farmland owners in the United States, with hundreds of thousands of acres attributed to his various holdings. But there's an important detail. Owning farmland doesn't necessarily mean personally farming it. Large landowners can lease farmland to agricultural operators while the land itself remains an investment. And that's what makes farmland attractive. It can generate income, has a limited physical supply, and can potentially appreciate over time. But here's the part that's easy to miss. Owning a huge amount of land isn't automatically easy money. Property taxes, insurance, maintenance, financing costs, management expenses, vacancies, and unexpected repairs can eat into returns.
$1 billion of real estate assets doesn't mean $1 billion of profit. Behind every massive property portfolio are thousands of ordinary problems. A roof leaks, a tenant leaves, a property sits vacant, a tractor breaks down, a tax bill arrives. The spreadsheet may look impressive, but somebody still has to fix the pipe. So why do investors keep buying land? Because real estate can offer something investors value enormously: multiple ways to make money from the same asset. You can earn income from rent,
The property can appreciate. You may be able to borrow against it, and certain ownership structures can provide tax advantages. None of that makes real estate risk-free. Property values can fall. Interest rates can rise. Tenants can disappear. Entire neighborhoods can lose demand. But over long periods, real estate has remained an important store of wealth, which is one reason wealthy investors continue to allocate money toward it. And this is where the story gets more controversial. When ownership becomes concentrated in a particular housing market, large landlords can become important players in that market. In some neighborhoods, institutional investors own a significant share of single-family rental homes. That doesn't automatically mean they control rents.
Housing prices and rents are influenced by many factors: supply, demand, interest rates, population growth, construction, local regulations, and household income. But when a large investor owns thousands of properties in the same market, its decisions can have a much bigger impact than the decisions of one individual landlord. And that's where ordinary buyers face a new kind of competition. You're not always competing against another family trying to buy their first home. Sometimes you're competing against a company with dedicated acquisition teams, professional financing, and the ability to evaluate thousands of properties at once, which brings us to the bigger story. This isn't really about houses. And it isn't only about farmland. It's about what ownership means in modern America. For generations, owning land usually meant living on it, farming it, building on it, or passing it to your children. Today, land can also be a financial instrument. A property can become a line on a balance sheet. A farm can become an income-producing asset. A house can become part of a portfolio. And an entire neighborhood can become a collection of investment properties.
The system isn't necessarily secret. Much of it is perfectly legal and publicly documented through property records, corporate filings, and financial disclosures. But the ownership structure can be complicated. LLCs, REITs, holding companies, investment funds, and subsidiaries can make it difficult for an ordinary person to see who ultimately controls a piece of property. So who really owns America? There isn't one billionaire sitting in a boardroom controlling the country. It's much more complicated than that. It's a sprawling network of families, corporations, funds, and individual investors competing to control one of the few assets that can't be manufactured more easily: land. And the most important question isn't simply who owns it. It's this: what happens to America when owning the land becomes more profitable than owning the home you live in?